The predominant theory about Psalm 85 is that it was written shortly after the Jews were returned from their 70-year captivity in Babylon. They were grateful and expressed this, stating, "Thou hast forgiven the iniquity of thy people. Thou hast covered all their sin." But they were also worried. The psalm goes on, "Cause thine anger toward us to cease. Will thou be angry with us forever? Will you be angry with all our future generations?" Put in plain language, we know that we messed up and we're hoping that you won't hate us forever. It's a feeling most of us have had at least once. Next, they make a promise to God. "I will listen to you when you speak peace to me and my people." And they acknowledge God's promise to them. Or maybe it's a bit of a threat. He will let them not turn again to folly. They know that God will not let them off the hook without a promise from them, and they're willing to make this promise. Here's my favorite part, verse 10. Mercy and truth are met together. I think that God is saying, I will give you mercy if you continue to be truthful. Could it be that there is no mercy without truth? And the rest of verse 10, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Again, my interpretation, your people will have peace if you do what is right. Is it true that there can be no peace without doing what is right? While these words are very beautiful and very poetic, after all, these are the Psalms, they are also pretty dire. One way to summarize this psalm might be, if you are sorry for what you've done in the past, but do not commit to being honest and truthful in the future, then God's mercy will be short-lived. Now, of course, God doesn't have to try to be truthful. He's inherently truthful, righteous, incapable of deceit, but we surely do. Verse 11, truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Truth shall spring out of the earth. Spring. So we as humans certainly have made a bit of a mess of this. How can truth spring from the earth in an era when people yell, fake news, and the line between opinion and fact is almost hopelessly blurred? How can truth spring from the earth when a law was recently signed in Florida allowing state residents to challenge curricula that they find offensive, with the main targets being evolution, classic literature, and history? How can truth spring from the earth when white supremacists march on a quiet college town carrying torches and Nazi flags, singing a Nazi song, yelling that Jews will not replace us? And a car is used as a weapon against a young woman who is peacefully and quietly protesting. Yet the official response to this action is vague and meaningless, and falsely argues that there are good people on both sides. It goes against all that our country stands for and fought for to claim that people carrying Nazi flags and singing Nazi songs and running down an innocent woman are good people. It seems pretty hopeless. Author Tom Nichols, in his book, The Death of Expertise, writes, "The United States is now a country obsessed with its own ignorance. It is a new declaration of independence. No longer do we hold these truths to be self-evident. We hold all truths to be self-evident, even the ones that aren't true." He goes on, there's a self-righteousness and fury to this new rejection of expertise that suggests that this isn't just mistrust or questioning or the pursuit of alternatives. It is narcissism coupled to a disdain for expertise. Americans now believe that having equal rights also means that each person's opinion about anything must be accepted as equal to anyone else's. Tom Nichols, writing in 2016, is not alone. Nearly 100 years ago, Minister Harry Emerson Fosdick preached a sermon entitled, "Shall the Fundamentalists Win?" Way back then, Fosdick was dealing with a split in the church. In light of new science and new technology, Christian people had to reconcile the truths of science with old church beliefs, and it was hard. Fundamentalists argued then, and continue to argue today, that science and religion are incompatible. Foreshadowing the future, they attempted to pass laws that banned teaching modern biology. kind of like some Floridians in 2017. What did Fosdick say we should do? First, he denounced in no unclear terms the lies. I do not believe for one moment that the fundamentalists are going to succeed. Nobody's intolerance can contribute to the solution. Then he stated, the first element that is necessary is a spirit of tolerance and Christian liberty. So how do we, as truth tellers, follow the guidance of Psalm 85, that the truth shall spring from the earth? How do we do this in a spirit of tolerance and Christian liberty? And from a practical basis, how can we coexist with those that reject the truth, actively, gracelessly, and narcissistically? I don't know. In issues affecting our country, we can vote. We can make phone calls. We can speak out together by any means possible, using social media, gathering with family, friends, and community, peacefully. There is power and value in being together. But I am sure that we must not speak the truth in a hateful way. We must not speak the truth in a violent way. Like Martin Luther King before us, we must speak the truth in a peaceful way. Actively seeking out the liars and confronting them with violence paints us all with the same brush. I recognize that these thoughts seem too simple, and they probably are. There's a fine line between completely ignoring hateful liars on one hand and giving them too much attention on the other. Neither extreme is right, and as Fosdick would say, we must pray for wisdom in dealing with the unique situations that we face. What about at the individual level, when a liar is part of your family or community or a close friend? Again, I don't know, but my thought is that assuming that the liar is not posing a physical threat to you, it seems to me that you should denounce his lies with truth and facts in a patient and tolerant way, even if there is a very low chance that you will change his mind. There is no point in arguing or being nasty or fighting. And this is heartbreaking, and it's incredibly difficult. And you will fail in keeping your cool all the time. I know that I have. Sometimes the relationship must become more superficial over time. Sometimes you just need some distance. Sometimes the relationship will fade, and sometimes it will end. But really only you as the truth teller, using discernment and wisdom and compassion, can decide what is best. This brings us back to the main message of Psalm 85, which I'm terming, and I'm not alone terming it, sort of truth plus mercy. If you speak the truth, God will give you mercy. These are two sides to the same coin. They come together. You cannot have one without the other. As humans, we must also be merciful and tolerant. But with this mercy comes an expectation of truth from others. So that's what we're facing now in the present, in our past, and it's complicated, and it's not yet solved, and it's heartbreaking. So what of the future? Here I am far more hopeful. We can make truth spring from the earth. We can. We can do it every single day with our friends, with our families, in our classrooms, in our offices, via social media, in our academic research. Maybe that's just me. And most especially, I cannot stress this enough with our children. Here's Fosdick again. As I plead thus for an intellectually hospitable, tolerant, liberty-loving church, I am, of course, thinking primarily about the new generation. As Christians, it is our moral imperative to speak the truth. The truth must spring from the earth. How we choose to do so, and in what aspects of our life we feel most compelled to do so, is up to each of us. For me, and I suspect for many of us, the focus must be less on the past and more on the present and the future. Always on the future. Amen.